Welcome back to our channel. The world stage is constantly shifting, with numerous significant events unfolding daily. Today we delve into a particularly contentious proposal emerging from the United States that could redefine the very meaning of American identity. Do you believe being born within the borders of America automatically confers American status? This long-held assumption might soon face a serious challenge. Former President Trump's latest initiative isn't merely stirring debate. It carries potentially historic implications. He's targeting the bedrock principle of citizenship, proposing to deny it to children born on U.S. soil if their parents are not citizens themselves. This isn't envisioned through legislation passed by Congress or a public vote, but potentially through a direct executive order. Understand that this isn't some marginal concept being floated. It represents a direct confrontation with the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. Should this policy gain traction and be implemented, it could signal the beginning of the end for birthright citizenship, as it has been understood for over a century. The implications are profound, touching upon legal precedent, individual lives, and the fundamental nature of what it means to be American. Prepare yourselves, because the ensuing struggle transcends mere legal arguments. It strikes at the personal core of identity and belonging for millions.
We encourage you to subscribe to our channel and hit the like button. Your support is crucial for helping us bring these important analyses to a wider audience. Let us know in the comments where you're tuning in from. Make sure to watch this entire video, as we'll be summarizing the key takeaways and potential outcomes in our concluding thoughts at the end. Donald Trump has consistently positioned himself as a political disruptor, an individual who gains energy from challenging established norms and shaking the foundations of the status quo. His presidency was marked by bold, often controversial moves aimed at reshaping national policy, particularly concerning immigration. Now, in a maneuver that has startled both supporters and detractors, he is setting his sights on one of the fundamental tenets of modern global identity: dual citizenship. This isn't the first time Trump has addressed citizenship issues. During his initial term in office, Trump was relentless in his pursuit of stricter immigration laws. He actively pushed for highly debated travel bans targeting several Muslim-majority countries, sparking widespread protests and legal battles. He also repeatedly floated the idea of ending birthright citizenship via executive order, questioning the interpretation of the 14th Amendment that grants citizenship to nearly all individuals born in the U.S. Furthermore, his administration championed policies reinforcing an America First doctrine, prioritizing perceived national interests above international cooperation or established diplomatic norms. These actions demonstrated a clear pattern of challenging existing frameworks related to borders, immigration, and national identity. But his current focus on dismantling dual citizenship represents a significant escalation. He argues that holding allegiance to two nations inherently creates divided loyalties, posing a security risk that cannot be tolerated. Trump's newest proposal concerning citizenship aims to completely dismantle the concept of dual citizenship for Americans. His argument posits that no individual can adequately serve the interests of the United States while simultaneously pledging allegiance to another nation. In his own declarations, this policy shift is presented as essential for protecting American sovereignty and preventing undue foreign influence. The very notion of possessing two passports, according to Trump's perspective, inherently cultivates divided loyalties. He frames this as a significant security vulnerability, especially in an era where global allegiances and international relations are under intense scrutiny and constantly shifting. This proposed policy is not merely a fleeting campaign remark. It represents a calculated extension of his deeply rooted nationalist ideology. For years, Trump has consistently framed discussions around immigration and citizenship through the lenses of loyalty, perceived national purity, and stringent control. He often emphasizes the need for unambiguous allegiance solely to the United States. Now, by specifically targeting dual citizens, many of whom possess profound and long-standing ties to both the U.S. and another country through family, heritage, or birth, he is fundamentally attempting to redefine what it signifies to be an American. This move forces a confrontation with the complex realities of global interconnectedness and personal identity in the 21st century. challenging the status of millions who navigate multiple national affiliations. The potential ramifications of Trump's proposed policy to end dual citizenship are nothing short of seismic. If this policy were to be enacted, millions of Americans currently holding dual nationality could be compelled to make an agonizing and potentially impossible choice. They might have to formally renounce the citizenship of their ancestral homeland, severing legal and often deep emotional ties, or forfeit their American status, potentially losing rights and residency in the country they call home. This dilemma would impact a vast spectrum of individuals, from second-generation immigrants whose parents hail from other nations, maintaining cultural and familial connections, to established binational families with members spread across borders. The emotional, legal, and diplomatic fallout resulting from such a policy would be unprecedented in modern American history. Imagine the personal turmoil of being forced to choose between heritage and homeland, between family abroad and life in the U.S. The legal complexities alone would be immense, potentially creating bureaucratic chaos and triggering countless lawsuits. Diplomatically, it could severely strain relationships with allies whose citizens also hold U.S. citizenship, leading to international friction and potential retaliatory measures. The very fabric of many families and communities could be torn apart by this policy, redefining belonging in a potentially devastating way. Legal scholars have already begun dissecting the feasibility and constitutionality of Trump's plan to eliminate dual citizenship, raising significant questions. Dual citizenship, while sometimes debated, has long been tolerated, and in many practical aspects, supported by U.S. law and precedent. There is no explicit prohibition against it in the Constitution. In fact, numerous dual citizens have served honorably and with distinction in the U.S. military, contributed significantly to the American economy through entrepreneurship and skilled labor, and held positions of public trust within government agencies and communities. Their loyalty has rarely been questioned solely based on holding a second passport. Therefore, the fundamental question arises: can their allegiance truly be doubted simply because they possess citizenship in another country, often due to birth or ancestry? Critics warn vehemently that this plan could backfire dramatically. Implementing such a policy would likely alienate not only millions of citizens within the United States, but also crucial global allies abroad, whose nationals currently benefit from dual citizenship arrangements with the U.S. The United States, after all, is fundamentally a nation built by immigrants, founded on the very principle of diverse peoples with multiple identities coming together under one flag. To force individuals to shed a part of their identity, their heritage, and their familial connections would be to fundamentally attack that legacy, potentially ripping apart the multicultural tapestry that defines the nation. Despite the significant legal hurdles and potential backlash, Trump's base may perceive this proposed crackdown on dual citizenship as yet another bold and necessary stand. For many of his core supporters, this aligns with a nationalist ideology that prioritizes a perceived singular American identity and views multiculturalism or strong foreign ties with suspicion. They might see this not as a divisive measure, but as a necessary step in the fight to take back America, reinforcing borders and ensuring undivided loyalty. From their perspective, the focus isn't on the potential division it creates, but on devotion, an absolute and exclusive commitment to the United States. Whether this proposal ultimately gains legal traction or remains a provocative campaign promise designed to energize supporters is yet to be seen. However, one thing is undeniably clear. Donald Trump is once again pushing the boundaries of political discourse and testing the very definition of what it means to belong in America. In doing so, he is igniting a fierce and potentially transformative debate at the very heart of American identity, forcing the nation to confront difficult questions about loyalty, heritage, and belonging in an increasingly interconnected world. The conversation he has sparked will undoubtedly resonate long after the current political cycle concludes. Trump's proposed crackdown on dual citizenship is not merely a domestic political issue. It's politically explosive on a global scale and could potentially spark a legal firestorm of historic proportions. As the former president intensifies his rhetoric surrounding loyalty and national identity, The major question looming large is whether he even possesses the authority to implement such a change. The short answer, according to most constitutional experts, is no, at least not without a monumental fight. At the heart of this complex issue lies the U.S. Constitution, which treats citizenship, particularly birthright citizenship under the 14th Amendment, as a fundamental right. This is not something a president can typically alter or revoke unilaterally through an executive order. The Supreme Court has consistently issued rulings over the decades affirming that citizenship, once granted, cannot be arbitrarily revoked, especially not based on shifting political ideologies or the mere possession of another nationality. In fact, the government's existing authority to strip someone of their U.S. citizenship is exceptionally limited and applies only in very rare, narrowly defined circumstances. For instance, citizenship can be revoked if it was proven to be obtained fraudulently during the naturalization process, or if a citizen voluntarily renounces their U.S. nationality through formal procedures, often by signing specific documents before a U.S. consular officer abroad. Crucially, simply holding citizenship in another nation has never been considered sufficient grounds for revoking U.S. citizenship. Period. So, what would it actually require for Trump's plan regarding dual citizenship to become law? It would necessitate far more than just presidential willpower or an executive decree. To fundamentally alter the legal landscape surrounding dual citizenship, Trump would likely need to navigate a complex and arduous legislative path, potentially even amending the Constitution itself. A major rewrite of U.S. citizenship laws would first require an act of Congress. This involves not merely achieving a simple majority vote in both the House of Representatives and the Senate, but almost certainly overcoming the Senate filibuster, which would demand a supermajority of 60 votes in today's highly divided political climate. That alone represents an incredibly tall order, given the likely opposition from Democrats and potentially some Republicans. Furthermore, if the proposed change runs afoul of existing constitutional protections, as many legal scholars believe it would, then Trump and his allies would need to embark on the even more challenging process of pushing for a constitutional amendment. Amending the U.S. Constitution is deliberately designed to be difficult. It requires passage by a two-thirds majority in both the House and the Senate, followed by ratification by 3/4 of the U.S. states, 38 states. In today's hyper-polarized political environment, achieving such broad consensus is widely considered a political impossibility. Legal scholars overwhelmingly agree. This isn't just an unlikely scenario. Attempting to eliminate dual citizenship faces a legal Mount Everest. However, let's entertain the hypothetical scenario for argument's sake. Suppose a future Trump administration, if re-elected, somehow managed to find a way to roll out even a partial version of this proposal, perhaps targeting specific groups or circumstances. What would happen then? The immediate consequence would almost certainly be lawsuits. Endless waves of lawsuits. Civil rights organizations, immigration lawyers representing affected individuals, and potentially thousands of dual citizens themselves would immediately flood the courts with legal challenges, arguing the policy violates constitutional rights and established legal precedents. Foreign governments, particularly those of close U.S. allies with large diasporas in America, could also become involved. They might claim the move violates international agreements or bilateral treaties concerning citizenship and consular rights. Such actions could create severe diplomatic crises for dual nationals caught in the middle, potentially subjecting them to conflicting legal demands from both countries. The ensuing legal battles could take years, if not decades, to play out, likely escalating through the federal court system and eventually landing before the Supreme Court for a final decision. There is existing precedent here. In previous rulings concerning citizenship rights, the Supreme Court has consistently upheld the rights of both natural-born and naturalized U.S. citizens, emphasizing the high bar required to revoke citizenship. This history strongly suggests that any attempt to strip citizenship, based solely on dual nationality, would face intense legal scrutiny and likely fail. Who exactly gets caught in the crossfire if such a policy were pursued? What is the human cost of ending dual citizenship? If Donald Trump's proposal to end dual citizenship were ever to become law, it wouldn't just be an abstract political talking point.
It would instantly become a life-altering dilemma for millions of individuals across the United States and around the globe. Consider the children born in the U.S. to immigrant parents. They automatically gain American citizenship by birth under the 14th Amendment, while often also inheriting their parents' nationality according to the laws of their country of origin. In Trump's proposed world, this dual identity suddenly becomes a liability, not a bridge between cultures. If his plan moved forward, these children, many of whom have known no other home than America, could be forced to make an impossible choice: cling to their ancestral roots and the citizenship of their parents' homeland, or keep their future secure in the U.S. by renouncing their other nationality. Imagine the profound identity crisis forced upon a teenager asked to formally renounce their connection to a grandparent's homeland, a place perhaps central to their family history and cultural upbringing, simply to retain their legal place in the only country they have ever known. This forced choice between heritage and homeland is a deeply personal and potentially traumatic one. The impact extends far beyond children of immigrants. Consider the millions of U.S. expats and global professionals living and working abroad. In today's highly interconnected world, countless Americans build lives, careers, and families overseas. Many acquire second citizenships for practical reasons: to navigate complex foreign legal systems, obtain necessary work permits, simplify travel, access local services, or simply feel more integrated and rooted in their host countries. For these global citizens, Trump's policy would transform practicality into punishment. They too could be forced to abandon one's citizenship just to comply with U.S. law, potentially disrupting successful careers, separating families living across borders, and unraveling lives carefully built over years or even decades. The policy could penalize Americans for embracing global opportunities and connections. Then there are the naturalized citizens, immigrants who have gone through the rigorous process of legally becoming American citizens, taking an oath of allegiance. For many of these individuals, retaining citizenship from their country of birth is not about divided loyalty. It's about maintaining a connection to family, heritage, and history. It's a link to their past, a bridge between two parts of their lives. Trump's policy would effectively demand they burn that bridge, forcing them to renounce the country of their birth, often severing deep emotional and familial ties in the process. This could feel like a betrayal of their past and a forced assimilation that ignores the complex reality of identity for many naturalized Americans. Ironically, even some of America's most demonstrably loyal public servants could find themselves targeted by a ban on dual citizenship. Consider U.S. military personnel and diplomats born abroad, often to American parents serving overseas. These individuals may carry dual citizenship through no active choice of their own, simply due to the circumstances of their birth location and parentage. They have potentially risked their lives serving the United States in uniform, or represented its values and interests on the international stage as diplomats. Yet, under this proposed policy, their fundamental loyalty could be questioned, and their legal status as Americans thrown into doubt, simply because they technically hold citizenship in another country. To suddenly label these dedicated individuals as potentially disloyal is seen by many critics as not just profoundly unjust, but deeply offensive and counterproductive to national interests. The potential consequences ripple outward: legal chaos, significant economic fallout as skilled workers and investors potentially leave or avoid the U.S., and growing global isolation as international partnerships fray. The logistical nightmare of forcing millions to formally renounce citizenships would involve immense bureaucratic gridlock, an avalanche of lawsuits, and inevitable international disputes. The emotional and psychological toll on individuals and families forced into these impossible choices would be immeasurable, potentially tearing apart families and forcing people who have only known America as home to feel like they no longer belong. So, is this proposal a serious strategy or mere political spectacle? As bold as Trump's proposal to end dual citizenship may sound, many seasoned political analysts argue it's less about enacting feasible policy and more about calculated political theater. To them, this is classic Trump, employing provocative, headline-grabbing rhetoric to energize his core supporters and dominate the news cycle, regardless of the practical or legal realities. By attacking the concept of dual citizenship,
Trump taps into a familiar and potent theme that was central to his political rise in 2016. The nativist belief that American identity is under siege from external forces like globalization, immigration, and the perceived threat of divided loyalties. This move powerfully reinforces his America First brand, playing directly into the anxieties of voters who feel the country is losing its traditional cultural cohesion and national sovereignty. It paints him as a strong leader willing to take decisive, even controversial action. This proposal may serve primarily as a campaign lightning rod, a symbolic issue designed to rally the base, rather than a genuine legislative priority with a realistic path to implementation. Whether or not it ever becomes actual law, it effectively sends a clear message to his supporters. He remains the unyielding defender of what he defines as true American values, willing to shake the system to protect the nation. However, make no mistake, this proposal is far from universally popular, even among potential Trump allies. In attempting to rigidly define what it means to be truly American, Trump risks drawing a line in the sand that many, including moderate Republicans and independent voters, will be unwilling to cross. The potential backlash is significant. This policy could alienate a substantial portion of the electorate, particularly within the large and diverse immigrant communities across the country, as well as among first- and second-generation Americans who maintain strong cultural and familial ties to their ancestral homelands. In key swing states like California, Texas, Florida, and New York, all home to large populations of dual citizens, such a move could prove electorally disastrous. These voting blocs have long been a powerful force in American elections, and painting them as security risks or demanding they sever ties with their heritage could push them further away from Trump's vision of America. Furthermore, the optics on the international stage are problematic. The United States has historically prided itself on being a nation built by immigrants, a melting pot that draws strength from its diversity of identities, cultures, and perspectives. By targeting dual citizenship, Trump risks undermining this foundational narrative. His opponents are already seizing the moment, framing the proposal as a direct attack on diversity, inclusion, and the very concept of global citizenship. Even within the Republican Party, the response has been notably mixed. Some see the move as too extreme, warning that it could fracture the party's broader appeal and alienate potential supporters. Others express concern that it will overshadow more pressing economic or social issues and distract from potentially more winnable campaign points. Trump's political calculus may be banking on the idea that controversy breeds loyalty among his base, but the broader political and diplomatic minefield this proposal navigates is fraught with peril. For those currently holding dual citizenship, the uncertainty sparked by Trump's proposal, even if it remains just a proposal, can feel deeply unsettling and create significant anxiety. While the idea is still just that, a proposal, not yet law, the potential implications are massive and touch upon fundamental aspects of identity, family, and belonging. Legal experts strongly recommend that dual citizens stay informed about any policy discussions or potential legislative actions. Keeping personal documentation, such as passports from both countries, birth certificates, and naturalization papers, organized and up to date is crucial. Monitoring news sources for any policy changes related to citizenship and immigration is advisable. Consulting with qualified immigration lawyers can provide personalized guidance based on individual circumstances and help navigate any potential changes or requirements that might arise. Preparing proactively can help mitigate some of the uncertainty. However, beyond the immediate legal technicalities and practical preparations, this ongoing debate cuts much deeper. At its very core, it forces a national reckoning with a critical question. What does it truly mean to be an American in the 21st century? Should the U.S. demand exclusive national allegiance, forcing its citizens to choose one nationality over another? Or should it embrace the complex reality of a globalized world where individuals often have multiple ties, personal, professional, cultural, and familial, to different nations? As Trump's proposal continues to fuel heated conversation and controversy, it's evident that this issue isn't going away anytime soon. The national discussion surrounding citizenship, loyalty, heritage, and identity is only intensifying. Millions of dual citizens are left watching closely, wondering what their future holds and how their place in America might be redefined.
Whether this specific plan ultimately becomes law or fades away as another campaign promise, the broader conversation it has ignited about national identity and allegiance will undoubtedly continue to shape political discourse and potentially policy for years to come. What are your thoughts on this complex issue? Will this proposed change reshape American identity, or is it merely a strategic political maneuver? Let us know your perspective in the comments below. If you found this analysis insightful, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing for more updates on this and other critical current events. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video. Dual citizenship. Trump policy. Citizenship. This video explores former President Trump's controversial proposal to potentially end dual citizenship for Americans, examining the historical context, legal challenges, potential consequences for millions, and the political motivations behind the move. U.S. politics. Immigration. Law. Trump 2024. Citizenship. Birthright. Citizenship. 14th Amendment. Nationalism. American identity. Global politics. Election. 24. Top 7 reasons Trump's dual citizenship ban could reshape America forever. 5 ways Trump's citizenship agenda challenges the 14th Amendment. What you need to know. Trump's attack on dual citizenship. 6. Shocking consequences for millions of Americans. The end of dual nationality. Top 10 questions about Trump's controversial plan. 6 reasons why Trump's plan to end dual citizenship faces massive legal hurdles. Trump, citizenship, dual nationality, birthright, citizenship, 14th Amendment, immigration, U.S. politics, election 2024, America First. Fun info fact 0.02. Introduction. Trump's challenge to citizenship. 038. Trump's new citizenship. Agenda. A bold break from tradition. 210. Implications of ending dual citizenship. The human cost. 359. Citizenship. Crackdown. Is it even constitutional? 741. Who gets caught in the crossfire? Impact on specific groups. 1142. Backlash and blowback. Political and global reactions. 1659. Strategy or spectacle. Analyzing Trump's motives. 1846. What's next for dual citizens? Preparing for uncertainty. 2012. Conclusion and final thoughts. Clickbait phrases. 1. Trump's shocking citizenship plan could force you to choose. 2. Millions of Americans' status hangs in the balance. Trump's latest move explained. Image prompts. 1. Dramatic image of a gavel striking down on 2 overlapping passports, U.S. and another country. 2. A split screen. One side showing the Statue of Liberty, the other showing a distressed family looking at different flags. 3. Map of the USA with the 14th Amendment text superimposed and cracking. 4. Donald Trump pointing assertively at a podium with U.S. flags behind him. 5. A diverse crowd of people holding protest signs related to citizenship rights. 6. Close-up of hands tearing up a non-U.S. passport while holding a U.S. passport. 7. A lone individual standing at a crossroads with signs pointing to USA and heritage. 8. Graphics showing dominoes falling, starting with dual citizenship ban and leading to economic fallout, diplomatic crisis. 9. Silhouetted figures of soldiers saluting a U.S. flag, with faint outlines of other flags behind them. 10. An airport scene with a family looking stressed, holding multiple passports. 11. Illustration of the U.S. Constitution with a question mark over the 14th Amendment section. 12. A crowded naturalization ceremony with happy faces, contrasted with a potential future image of worried faces. 13. Donald Trump speaking intensely into a microphone, background slightly blurred. 14. World map highlighting countries with significant dual U.S. citizenship populations, e.g., Canada, Mexico, UK, Germany, Israel. 15. Close-up of a ballot box with hands casting votes, symbolizing the political impact. 16. A visual representation of a bridge collapsing between the U.S. flag and other world flags. 17. An image depicting legal scales heavily tilted, representing the constitutional challenge. 18. A collage of faces representing diverse American dual citizens, professionals, students, families. 19. Stylized image of a U.S. passport being stamped, revoked, or choice required. 20. A split image showing Trump supporters cheering on one side and concerned dual citizens on the other.